Inflation is cooling, savings accounts are offering 5%, and yet, I-bonds still sit at 3.98%. So the big question in 2025, are I-bonds still worth buying, or is it finally time to sell? I-bonds are U.S. government savings bonds tied to inflation. They earn two parts, a fixed rate and a variable inflation rate. In 2025, that gives a combined yield of 3.98%. High-yield savings accounts are paying 4.5 to 5.25%, CDs range from 4 to 5%. The gap is closing. Welcome to the Essential Guide on the rules and regulations of I-bonds. Understanding these guidelines is the most critical step in transforming I-bonds from a simple savings vehicle into a powerful component of your financial strategy. While they offer incredible benefits, particularly in times of high inflation, they aren't like a typical savings account. They come with specific rules about how much you can buy, when you can access your money, and what penalties might apply. Getting these details right from the start will ensure you avoid any surprises and maximize your returns. In this chapter, we're going to do a deep dive into the three core pillars of I-bond regulation: the purchase limits, the initial lock-in period, and the early redemption penalties. We'll break down not only what the rules are, but why they exist, and how you can strategically navigate them to your advantage. We'll explore simple and advanced techniques for increasing your investment amount, look at real-world scenarios, and provide the clarity you need to invest with confidence. Let's start with the first question on everyone's mind: how much can I actually invest? The primary rule for purchasing I-bonds is straightforward. Each individual, identified by their Social Security number, can purchase up to $10,000 worth of electronic I-bonds per calendar year. This purchase is made directly through the U.S. Treasury's official website, Treasury Direct. This limit is applied per person, not per household. So, if you're married, both you and your spouse can each purchase $10,000 in your own separate Treasury Direct accounts, for a household total of $20,000 per year. This electronic limit resets every January 1st, allowing you to contribute another $10,000 for the new year. It's a hard cap for electronic purchases, but it's not the only way to buy I-bonds. There's a second, often overlooked avenue for purchasing I-bonds that allows you to invest even more. You can use your federal tax refund to purchase an additional $5,000 in paper I-bonds each year. This is a separate limit from the $10,000 electronic one. To do this, you must file IRS Form 8888 titled Allocation of Refund, along with your tax return. On this form, you can direct the IRS to use up to $5,000 of your refund to buy paper I-bonds in your name, or in the name of you and a co-owner, like your spouse. These are the only paper savings bonds the Treasury still issues, and they are mailed directly to your home address. This means a married couple, by maximizing both electronic and paper bond purchases, could potentially invest up to $30,000 in I-bonds in a single year, $10,000 for each spouse electronically, and another $10,000 combined from their tax refund if it's large enough. But the strategies for increasing your I-bond allocation don't stop there. You can also purchase I-bonds for your minor children. Each child with a Social Security number has their own separate $10,000 annual limit. As a parent, you can open a minor linked account under your own Treasury Direct account and purchase bonds on their behalf. The bonds belong to the child, but you act as the custodian until they reach legal adulthood. Furthermore, the purchase limits also apply to legal entities. This means that a trust, a corporation, an LLC, or even a sole proprietorship can open its own Treasury Direct account and purchase up to $10,000 in I-bonds per year, completely separate from the owner's personal limit. For a business owner, this means you could potentially invest $10,000 for yourself, $10,000 for your spouse, and another $10,000 through your business entity. Understanding these entity and gifting rules unlocks a much higher potential for I-bond investment for those with the capital to deploy. Now that we've covered how to get money, let's talk about getting money. This brings us to the second core rule, the 1-year lock-in period. This is an absolute rule with no exceptions. Once you purchase an I-bond, you cannot redeem it for any reason for the first 12 months. Your money is completely locked and inaccessible during this initial period. The Treasury implements this rule to encourage longer-term savings and to ensure a stable pool of capital. This is a critical point to consider in your financial planning. I-bond money is not emergency fund money for at least the first year. You must have other liquid savings available to cover unexpected expenses during that time. Think of it as a commitment. You're lending money to the government, and in exchange for an inflation-protected return, the government requires you to keep it there for at least 1 full year. After the first year passes, your I-bond becomes redeemable. You now have access to your funds, but this leads us to the third major rule, the early redemption penalty. If you cash out your I-bond anytime after the first year but before the 5th year, you will forfeit the last 3 months of interest earned. Let's be very specific about how this works. It's not a penalty on your principal, and it's not a flat fee. The penalty is always calculated as the most recent 3 months of interest credited to your bond. Let's walk through a clear example. Suppose you invest $10,000 and decide to redeem it after 15 months. You have successfully passed the 1-year lock-in period. Over those 15 months, your bond has been earning interest. However, because you are cashing out before the 5-year mark, the penalty applies. You would receive your original $10,000 back plus the first 12 months of interest. The interest earned in months 13, 14, and 15 would be forfeited. If you cashed out after 30 months, you would receive your principal plus 27 months of interest. While nobody likes penalties, it's important to put this one into perspective. In many high-inflation environments, the interest rate on I-bonds can be so high that even after forfeiting 3 months of interest, your net return may still be significantly better than what you could have earned in a high-yield savings account or a certificate of deposit over the same period. It's always wise to do the math. Calculate your total interest earned, subtract the last 3 months, and compare that net return to your other liquid savings options. More often than not, the I-bond still comes out ahead. The 5-year mark is a golden milestone in the life of an I-bond. Once your bond has been held for 5 full years, the early redemption penalty vanishes completely. From year 5 until the bond's final maturity at 30 years, you can redeem it at any time and receive 100% of your principal plus all the interest it has accrued with no penalty whatsoever. This makes I-bonds an exceptionally flexible and safe investment for medium to long-term goals, like saving for a down payment on a house in 5 or 6 years, funding a child's education, or supplementing your retirement income. So, to recap the key rules. First, you can buy $10,000 electronically and an extra $5,000 with your tax refund per person per year, with additional options for children and entities. Second, your money is completely locked for the first 12 months. And third, if you redeem between year 1 and year 5, you'll forfeit the last 3 months of interest. By understanding and planning around these 3 simple rules, you can effectively harness the full power of I-bonds to protect your savings from inflation and achieve your financial goals. I-bonds are backed by the U.S. government, zero credit risk. Unlike savings accounts, you don't pay taxes until redemption. Someone in the 32% tax bracket could save thousands over 10 years. If you bought I-bonds with high inflation rates, you're still sitting on strong returns. The golden age of I-bonds, with those headline-grabbing rates north of 9%, feels like a distant memory. Now, as the inflation that fueled those returns has cooled, a new, pressing question has emerged for millions of investors. Is it time to sell? The decision isn't as simple as it seems. It involves weighing new opportunities, understanding penalties, and most importantly, aligning your choice with your personal financial goals. In this comprehensive guide, we'll break down every angle of the case for selling your I-bonds, giving you the tools and knowledge to decide if cashing out is the right move for you. Let's start with the most compelling argument for selling: the numbers. The current composite rate for I-bonds has fallen significantly. For instance, a rate of 4.28% is a combination of a 1.3% fixed rate and a semi-annual inflation rate of 1.48%. On its own, it's still a respectable government-backed return. But in the world of finance, no investment exists in a vacuum. We have to consider the opportunity cost, the potential gains you're missing out on by not putting your money elsewhere. Right now, the most obvious competitor is the high-yield savings account, or HYSA. With the Federal Reserve holding interest rates high to combat inflation, many online banks are offering HYSAs with annual percentage yields, or APYs, exceeding 5%. Let's make this tangible. Imagine you have $10,000 invested. In an I-bond earning 4.28%, you'd earn $428 in a year. But in an HYSA at 5.25%, you'd earn $525. That's a difference of nearly $100 for the same principal, with the added benefit of immediate liquidity. For investors who were drawn to I-bonds primarily for their high yield in 2022, this simple math makes a powerful case for moving their cash to greener pastures. But HYSAs aren't the only alternative. Certificates of deposit, or CDs, are also offering attractive rates, often with the benefit of a locked-in yield for a specific term, protecting you if market rates fall. Short-term Treasury bills, or T-bills, purchased directly from the same Treasury Direct website, have also been yielding over 5%. They offer a similar state and local tax advantage to I-bonds, making them a very strong competitor for investors in high-tax states. The financial landscape has shifted dramatically. Where I-bonds were once the undisputed king of safe returns, they now face stiff competition from multiple angles. The core question you must ask is whether your I-bond is still the most effective tool for its job in your portfolio. Of course, selling an I-bond isn't as simple as withdrawing from a savings account. You have to navigate the redemption rules, which are designed to encourage long-term holding. First, there's the absolute 12-month lock-in period. You cannot, under any circumstances, access your money for the first year after purchase. If you're still within this window, the decision is made for you. You have to wait. The more common scenario is for those who have held their bonds for more than 1 year, but less than 5. If you fall into this category, you can sell, but you will face a penalty. You forfeit the last 3 months of interest. This is where many people get tripped up, so let's be crystal clear. This is not a penalty on your principal. It is a penalty on your earnings. Let's walk through an example. Suppose you've held your bond for 18 months. When you decide to sell, the Treasury will look at the interest earned in months 16, 17, and 18, and simply subtract that amount from your redemption value. To determine if selling is still worthwhile, you must calculate your net return after this penalty and compare that to your alternative. If your I-bonds rate over the last year was high, and the rate on a competing HYSA is only slightly better, the 3-month penalty could easily wipe out the advantage of switching. Conversely, if you're moving from a sub-4% I-bond to a 5.25% HYSA, you'll likely come out far ahead, even after paying the penalty. It requires a bit of math, but it's essential for making a financially sound decision. Once you've done the math and decided to proceed, the mechanics of selling are straightforward. You'll log into your Treasury Direct account. From your account summary, you'll navigate to the Manage Direct tab. Here you'll see a list of all the securities you own. You can select the specific I-bond you wish to redeem. The system gives you the option to redeem the full amount or a partial amount, as long as it's over $25 and you leave at least $25 in the bond. After you confirm the redemption, the system will show you the principal, the total interest accrued, the penalty amount, and your final transaction value. The funds are then typically transferred to your linked bank account within 2 to 3 business days. However, before you click that final confirmation button, there is one more critical factor to consider: taxes. This is the I-bond's hidden superpower. The interest you earn is subject to federal income tax, but it is completely exempt from all state and local income taxes. For someone in a state with no income tax, this doesn't matter. But for an investor in a high-tax state like California, New York, or Oregon, this is a massive benefit. Let's revisit our $10,000 example. That $525 from a 5.25% HYSA will be taxed by both the federal government and your state. If you're in a 9% state tax bracket, that's nearly $47 in state taxes you'll owe, reducing your effective return. The $428 from the I-bond is immune to that state tax. This tax-equivalent yield can significantly close the gap between the headline rates. You must compare the after-tax return of an HYSA with the after-tax return of your I-bond to see the true picture. Furthermore, there's a special provision called the education tax exclusion. If you use your I-bond proceeds to pay for qualified higher education expenses for yourself, your spouse, or a dependent, the interest you earned may be entirely free from federal tax as well. There are income limitations and specific rules to follow, but for families saving for college, this can make I-bonds an unbeatable savings vehicle and a powerful reason to sell, even if current rates seem low. Finally, let's zoom out and consider the role of I-bonds in a diversified portfolio. Some investors might be tempted to sell their I-bonds to invest in the stock market, which has historically returned an average of 7 to 10% per year. This line of thinking involves a category error. I-bonds were never designed to compete with stocks. They are a capital preservation tool, designed to protect your purchasing power from inflation with zero risk of losing principal. Stocks are a wealth generation tool designed for long-term growth, but they come with significant risk and volatility. The decision to sell your I bonds to buy stocks shouldn't be based on short-term rate comparisons. It should be based on a fundamental shift in your financial plan, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance. If you designated that I bond money for a down payment on a house in 3 years, moving it to the stock market is an incredibly risky gamble. If, however, you're 25 years old and have decided you want to be more aggressive with your long-term savings, then reallocating those funds might align with your new strategy. So, the case for selling your I bonds is nuanced. It's strong for the active investor who wants to maximize every dollar and is comfortable moving money to higher-yielding liquid cash alternatives, even after accounting for penalties. But the case weakens considerably when you factor in the powerful state tax exemption, the potential for tax-free education savings, and the fundamental role of I bonds as a risk-free anchor in a balanced financial plan. The choice is ultimately yours, but it must be an informed one. I bonds are still great for emergency fund builders, high earners in high-tax states, and parents saving for college where interest can be tax-free. Skip I bonds. If you need liquidity within 12 months, you're young and need growth, or you've already maxed out higher-paying alternatives. So, we've reached the final analysis. After exploring every facet of series and savings bonds, how do they truly stack up against the most common alternatives? Let's put them head-to-head in a comprehensive final comparison. On one side we have the I bond, our inflation-fighting champion. On the other, its main contenders in the world of safe money, the high-yield savings account, or HYSA, the certificate of deposit, or CD, and the treasury bill, or T-bill. Let's start with what often grabs the headlines, the yield. Right now, you might see HYSAs offering rates that look more attractive than the current I bond composite rate. This is where the first critical distinction comes in. An HYSA offers a variable rate that can change at any time, based on the Federal Reserve's actions. It's liquid and accessible, making it the undisputed king for your most immediate emergency funds. CDs offer a fixed rate, which can be great if you lock in a high one, but it also means you're stuck if rates go up. You trade flexibility for predictability. The I bonds yield is a different beast entirely. It's a composite rate, made of a fixed rate that lasts for the life of the bond and an inflation rate that adjusts every 6 months. This is its superpower. While the HYSA or CD yield is just a number, the I bond yield is a promise to protect your money's purchasing power from the corrosive effects of inflation. When inflation is high, the I bond rate soars to compensate. When inflation is low, it provides a stable, albeit smaller, return. No other instrument on this list offers this direct semi-annual adjustment for inflation. Next, let's talk about liquidity, your access to your cash. Here, the HYSA is the clear winner for short-term needs. Your money is available almost instantly. I bonds, however, demand patience. Your money is completely locked for the first 12 months, no exceptions. From year 1 to year 5, you can access it, but you'll forfeit the last 3 months of interest. After 5 years, it's all yours, penalty-free. This makes I bonds unsuitable for money you might need tomorrow, but perfectly fine for goals that are at least a year away. Now for a crucial, often underestimated factor, taxes. Interest from HYSAs and CDs is fully taxable at your federal, state, and local income tax rates. T-bills are a step better, being exempt from state and local taxes, but you still pay federal tax annually. I bonds offer a unique triple tax advantage. First, the interest is completely exempt from all state and local taxes. If you live in a high-tax state like California or New York, this is a significant built-in bonus. Second, your federal tax is deferred. You don't pay a dime of tax on the growth until you cash out the bond, which could be up to 30 years later. This allows your money to compound tax-free for decades. And third, the cherry on top, if you use the proceeds to pay for qualified higher education expenses, the federal tax can be waived entirely, making the earnings completely tax-free. So, this brings us to the central question. With a current rate of 3.98%, are I bonds still worth it? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. It depends entirely on who you are and what you're trying to achieve. Let's consider a few real-world scenarios. Meet Sarah, a retiree. Her primary goal is capital preservation. She's less concerned with hitting a home run and more concerned with not losing the game to inflation. For her, an I bond isn't just an investment, it's financial peace of mind. The guaranteed protection of her principal and its purchasing power is a feature no HYSA can offer. She's building an I bond ladder, buying a new bond each year, to create a rolling stream of inflation-protected income for her later years. Now consider Dr. Chen, a surgeon living in a high-tax state. She's in a high federal and state income tax bracket. For her, the I-bond's stated yield is only half the story. When she compares a 3.98% tax-deferred, state tax-free I-bond to a fully taxable 5% HYSA, the math changes. After accounting for taxes, the I-bond's tax-equivalent yield might actually be higher. For high-income earners, the tax advantages can easily make up for a slightly lower nominal rate. What about Maria, who is building her first emergency fund? She needs immediate access to the first few months of her savings. For that portion, an HYSA is the perfect tool. But for the part of her fund covering months 7 through 18, she can afford the 1-year lockup. By placing this second tier of her emergency fund in I-bonds, she ensures that this portion of her safety net won't lose value to inflation while it waits, ready to be called upon after the first year. This is a sophisticated strategy that combines the best of both worlds. Ultimately, I-bonds are not meant to be the star of your investment portfolio. They aren't designed to compete with the growth potential of the stock market. Instead, they are the bedrock. They are the anchor in a storm, the part of your portfolio designed for ultimate safety, stability, and the preservation of purchasing power. They are a hedge against the uncertainty of inflation, and a hedge against the volatility of riskier assets. When stocks are down and inflation is up, the I-bond portion of your portfolio is doing exactly what it was designed to do, hold its ground. So, as we conclude, let's move beyond a simple rate comparison. An I-bond, at any rate, is a unique financial instrument. It offers a combination of features you cannot find anywhere else in a single package: government-backed safety, tax deferral, exemption from state and local taxes, and most importantly, a direct shield against inflation. The key isn't whether I-bonds are universally good or bad at any given moment. The real question is a personal one. What is the job you are hiring your money to do? If that job involves long-term savings, protecting your principal, mitigating inflation, and optimizing your tax situation, then Series 1 savings bonds don't just have a place in your strategy. They may be one of the most effective and reliable tools you can find. The decision rests with you, armed with the knowledge to choose not just the best investment, but the right one for your financial future.